um, dealing with furloughs, layoffs, and all the other good stuff that goes along with it. So I next am going to turn it over to Shane and to allow him to introduce himself. And then from there, I'll have him hand it off to Taylor.
Sounds good. Thanks, Nancy, and thanks for putting all this together. My name is Shane Durr. I'm a financial advisor and have a firm called One Strategic Capital on Bainbridge Island. And our primary role is management of 401k plans, and we do that process soup to nuts as fiduciaries. So we handle anything from the education to the investments to the, you name it. We become kind of your chief retirement officer. A few of you I've worked with, a few of I've not. It's nice to meet you, but we've been doing this for a little while and glad to be here today and getting to share some good information about what's going on in the world. And at this point, I guess I'll turn it over to Taylor and let him introduce himself.
Thanks, Shane, and thanks, Nancy, for putting this all together. My name's Taylor McFarland. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a sales rep for Paylocity. We are a payroll HR company, so we do everything from applicant tracking down to Cobra. I've been with Paylocity for 3 years, and it has definitely been interesting seeing the changes in the marketplace over the last couple of months. But thanks, everyone, for joining us today. I'm excited to brainstorm and have a good discussion with you guys on all of these topics. So thanks for joining.
Okay, so the way that we thought we would kick this off is since most people don't know each other, what we wanted to do was start with a brief introduction of yourself, the name of your company, approximate number of employees, just so we have kind of an idea of size, and then what is the number one challenge that you are dealing with right now. So I'm going to start. On my screen, and everybody's people are arranged differently, but on my screen, the upper right and left-hand corner is Lori Smith. So we'll start with Lori, and then we will go around the square.
Well, good morning. My name is Lori Smith, of course. Always upset with my mother for picking Lori Smith when she was from the 60s, but that's a whole different topic. I thought I should be Star or something like that. I am the Senior Payroll and Benefits Administrator for Heritage Distilling Company. So I've been going through this with all you folks. It's been crazy. And my biggest challenge is probably just proper, concise communication. You find that all the things that you would used to do with your hands or intonation and things like that, you're doing through email, and you can't convey tone in email, that type of thing. So you have to be extra sensitive and really get your message across and have good bullet points and a follow-up to call and make sure that there's, an understanding. But I think that the communication, especially for me, when I'm my hands fly everywhere, and goodness, you can't see them now because that's what they're doing. That's how I speak. So communicating properly and getting every new bit of information out to people has been difficult and challenging, but I'm adapting and it's giving me new resources. So I like that. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Lori. So we have two Michelles, and in my screen, they're side by side. So I'm going to start with Michelle D. So if you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself, that'd be awesome.
Awesome. So my name is Michelle Dvorak. I'm with Pacific Northwest Title in Silverdale. I've been there just about a year now. Prior to that, I was working with Paladin Data Systems up in Paulsbo for many, many years. I am the HR director. We're at 74 employees. And I think probably our biggest challenge right now is what we're referring to as COVID fatigue. As a title and escrow company, we're under the financial umbrella. So we've all been working through the last few months, and, people were really cooperative and on board with all of the social distancing and practicing wearing their masks and everything of that nature. But people are tired, and it's hard to continue with the same message and have folks continue to practice those policies. And I think that's our biggest challenge right now, is just getting folks to continue with those practices. And we're in this for the long haul. It's not a little tiny thunderstorm. It's what are they saying? It's a long storm.
It is. It is extended. Thank you, Michelle.
Yep,
So
thank you.
we're going to move to second Michelle. I'm Michelle Petty.
Hi, so I'm Michelle Petty and I work for Brumfield Construction. We are a small construction company outside of Aberdeen, Washington. We probably have about 50 employees right now. And just like the other Michelle, we've continued to work because we support the logging industry and do site work and road maintenance. So our guys have been putting in some really long hours. I would say our biggest issue is, again, communication. We've got folks working all over and they can't just pop into the office like they used to. So we're adapting, but that's been our biggest challenge.
Thanks, Michelle. So I'm going to go to a person with a name. It's a fabulous name. So how about Nancy?
Hi, I'm Nancy Kazmar with Compensation Connections. We're a little different. We're a consulting company. We do compensation consulting. And it's really changed a lot in the last few months. I think our biggest problem as a company, we have 10 people total. And our biggest problem is the amount of projects that have been put on hold, which understandably everybody had to figure out how to work, and especially municipal projects who are trying to deal with making sure they're supporting first responders. That's the most important thing. With everybody else in the private projects working from home, it turns out no one can pay their bills. So it's been hard working with a lot of receivables and not as much work. So thank God for PPP. So.
Exactly. All right, Mr. Price, you're up.
I'm Ken Price from West Bay Auto Parts. I'm the president of the company, and we've got about, I think, 144 people right now, and trying to bring back some more. And as Michelle D said, we're suffering from the COVID fatigue as well. We've got employees that just, we're kind of hesitant about coming back, and so I'm about to approach that pickle of saying, okay, well, you're being offered your job back. If you're declining it, then we've got to figure out the next steps. But so that's our big issue today.
Thanks, Ken. Lydia?
I am with ServiceMaster Tacoma. We have 57 employees lately. We've been going full steam through this. We do COVID disinfection jobs. So if you guys have a workplace that needs some disinfecting, let us know. So with that, we have the fun challenge of, providing PPE and all of that fun stuff. Getting it onto our people has been a huge challenge. But also getting people to come. Initially, I had 4 people request voluntary leaves, and they've all come back since, because there's no pay when you're on a voluntary leave, and that only lasts for so long before they have to come back. And so it's created some fun little challenges. The other part is, people, several of our staff have gone on the whole, well, you can't fire us during a pandemic. And so unfortunately, we still have to process those, which we had to terminate someone this morning, and it's not a fun one to do when you're like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. You don't come to work for 2 weeks, and well, that is what it is. So those have been the fun challenges that we've been going through. So then, you come to the whole maintaining your headcount for the PPP side of things. And I'm like, okay, so now we have to hire. I have to hire 3 people as soon as possible, but we still have to maintain background checks and everything else. So it's just, it's been a fun one, that's for sure. And the burnout is real, I tell you what.
The burnout is real.
Yeah, our management staff around here is pretty dang tired. We were all talking about that one this morning, but one of my coworkers who's the operations manager for our fireside is like, he was up at 3 o'clock this morning fretting about stuff. I was like, oh, that's nice. I slept for 12 hours last night because that's where my fatigue out is at. You know, it's like I conked out right after getting home and that was it. Yeah. It's just, we're all burned on different levels.
Thank you, Lydia.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah Kellerman.
Good morning, everybody. I'm the Human Resources Manager for Heritage Distilling Company. I work really closely with Lori Smith, who already introduced herself, who I will now call Star from now on. I didn't realize that she wanted to be that person in the world, so that's my promise to her. Wow, it has been quite a wild ride. Pre-COVID, we were at about 200 employees. Right now, we're sitting at just shy of 150. We had to let go of quite a few. And then within about 4 days, we pivoted to manufacturing hand sanitizer. Our bread and butter is whiskey, gin, and vodka. And now we're primarily focused on hand sanitizer. I'm really blessed with being able to support our community members and first responders, healthcare workers. And now we're blessed with really big wholesale orders coming in, like Microsoft, Nike, Boeing, Costco, Safeway. So our present challenge has been bringing all our folks, almost all our folks back, and then reaching out into the marketplace to recruit even more. The challenge is that folks are realizing they can stay at home for more money. We have people that come in that you can tell as soon as they walk in, they're just checking the block and doing their unemployment services interview for the day. And then other folks are like, hey, you know what? I'm tired of being at home. I need a break from my spouse. I want to be a part of something bigger. So that's been refreshing, kind of a neat aspect of this whole process as well. So shameless plug, if any of your offices or people need hand sanitizer, we can help you. And we've had a few one-off employee situations as well where people are concerned about coming back to work under those current conditions. And Lori and I have had to try and navigate that as best we can. So looking forward to talking about those kind of pieces as well. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Sarah. Stacy.
Good morning. My name is Stacy Scalp, and I am the Human Resources Manager for Performance Radiator Pacific. I am the only HR. We are, let's see, pre-COVID, we were about 260-ish employees. We went down to about 190. And as of today, we are back up to 252. That was after PPP. So we've got 36 locations in 17 different states, and we have 4 locations in Canada. So my biggest problem has just been the sheer volume, being that department of one that does HR, payroll, benefits, including COBRA administration. So it's just been the volume. We did some furloughs, we did some salary reductions, and just a lot of moving pieces and trying to keep who's on furlough, who's coming back, who's had wage reductions. Then after we got PPE tracking, where all those dollars are going. And so it's just been a lot. I'm pretty burned out right now.
I can understand that. Thanks, Stacy. Balin, I think we lost your video, but hopefully you are able to still be connected via audio. If you could introduce yourself. I know you joined us a few minutes late. Introduce yourself, your company, and what your biggest challenge has been right now. Maybe.
Hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now. I unmuted you.
Okay, perfect. No worries. My name is Balin Arndt. I am a financial resource with Post-Acute Solutions. We are a kind of new company that is helping assist with managing skilled nursing facilities and putting physician groups into skilled nursing facilities. So right now, especially, we're working through telemed, trying to protect our patients from the COVID exposures. Definitely seeing a lot of in staffing and employee challenges just due to both in, depending on which facility we're in, whether or not there are active cases of COVID or not. And then also managing getting through that, protecting both the staff and the patients that we care for on a daily basis. So the increase in the cost of PPE has been extraordinarily huge. But it's been interesting to see how everyone comes together and, really fights it on the close fronts right there for the patients. So
awesome. Okay, so I am we're going to see if I can do this correctly. I think that's all good. Okay, so we'll see how good or bad I am at this Zoom situation. So what we're going to do, now is we are going to move into breakout groups. So we're going to break into 3 groups, and just so that we can have more of an opportunity to talk. And our first session, or our first breakout, is going to be around communication challenges. It's going to be limited to 10 minutes. You'll get a notification that'll pop up 2 minutes prior to it ending. And at the end of 10 minutes, it's just going to throw you back into the main room. So if you have something to say in that session, say it quick so you can be sure and get your time in. And for ease of use, when we move into the next session, you're going to still be with your same group, just your facilitator is going to change. I was going to try and be a little fancier, but that seemed like way too much work for me. So we are going to pop into the rooms now. If you do have video, it might be a good time to turn it on, just because it's kind of nice to see the people that you're talking to. So our first session is communication challenges, and then your facilitator will bring up the questions and kind of keep everybody moving forward. So if we're ready, we'll see if this works. I'm opening all rooms. Okay, you should get a message and it says for you to join. Well, this is exciting. It actually worked.
It worked.
Okay, so go ahead and everybody make sure you're unmuted. I think we are all unmuted now. Thank you guys so much for joining. So again, I heard this actually is kind of a recurring theme from a lot of people, is that communication has been a challenge. I mean, this is a great format, but at the same time, I have Zoom burnout probably as much as you guys do. It's like, oh my God, if I have to look at somebody on a screen one more time, I'm, gonna hurt myself. So I think personally moving forward, I think this will be a tool we're more comfortable using. I hope we don't have to use it as much as we're using it right now. But the first question that I had for you guys, and I'll let you guys address it, is what do you think are the best and most effective communication methods that you're using right now?
I guess one of the things that we've been doing early on, there were so many emails flying around about, every time something new came up that was newsworthy, we'd send out an email ping to everybody, because at that point we'd stopped doing any group meetings and very few even face-to-face sessions, even for our folks that were in-house. So we've scaled that way back, and we have a couple of just specific emails that go out to our entire employee base. Once a week, I send out just, COVID-related updates and reminders and those sorts of things. And then based on some employee feedback, we have now started our CEO sending out more of a business topic, because since people couldn't get together and meet in groups, they still wanted to have information about how the company was doing and how we were doing compared to other, others in our industry. So we've got a CEO email that's coming out once a week too. So just using that as a more streamlined method, just because people were getting so overloaded with so many emails.
Yeah, understood. Anybody else have something that's worked really well for them?
Yeah, we've always relied pretty heavily on Teams for communication with everybody anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The way that we're set up, we only have 20 or so, 15 to 20 in the office before COVID. Now it's down to 5. But that's how we communicate with all of our technicians out in the field. And we also use a lot of different Microsoft Flow survey forms for getting job information quickly into Teams so that it gets distributed accurately and completely. The only thing that we've really added is the element of, we use Bamboo HR for our personnel software, and through there you can distribute all sorts of things, right? So any of the real big COVID blast of information that's like, you all have to wear masks now, acknowledge that you see this. I'll send that out through Bamboo with a little signature block that's just a sign I received it. And so I've done I think 6 of those now over the last 2 months that are just, basic policy updates like you have to wash your hands. You should have been doing this anyways, but please do it now. Like those kind of things. So I mean, that's
Right.
yeah, the biggest change that we've had here.
And I think on my side, a lot of the day-to-day operations, because we're in those healthcare facilities, really all that's changed is the mask. I mean, we are still having to be face-to-face being providers. So that's fortunate in, that need for quick delivery of anything that we need and that quick communication. So.
Yeah, I think, well, I know we use Teams a lot too. We use Teams internally, and then we use Zoom primarily externally. And we did get in the habit of having a daily huddle. It might only last for 5 minutes, but just that check-in, it was seemed to be really helpful. So here's another thing that this probably would apply a lot to you, Belinda, is how are you addressing mental and physical challenges while respecting boundaries?
So say that one more time again for me. That was a lot in one question.
It is. How are you addressing mental and physical challenges while still respecting boundaries?
I don't even know how to start that one. So
that's a
to be honest, it is. It's the physical boundaries. Obviously, it's hard when you're in an environment where that there may be positive COVID cases, and you're still, you have to provide that direct patient care. Staff are worried, patients are worried. That's kind of where it applies to the mental health. Having a patient who says to the provider, does that mean I'm going to die? No, absolutely not. You may be just fine coming through this. And luckily we've been fortunate enough to see that in our buildings that, have been touched by COVID, that we've had actually very positive outcomes compared to what you see in the news. So we're very lucky that way. But it is a mentally challenging time for everyone involved. Not only the patients and the providers in the buildings, but also families who can't come in and check on their loved ones. So it's a new process. Staff are probably getting closer and closer to patients just through the nature of what we are facing right now. Sure. So yeah, and families, they're talking through windows and, making daily phone calls. We've got iPads so they can communicate and talk, but it's still, there's a different side of that human touch that's kind of changed with going through all of this. So.
Yeah. I'm curious, Lydia, since you talked about having to let somebody go this morning, and I think that all of us are facing those type of issues, not only having to let somebody go, but then rehiring and doing it in this environment. And I don't know if any of you feel this way, but do you sometimes feel that people are playing the COVID card and then you can't really say anything about it because you can't?
So, we've had, I know, I'm like, how do I say this without violating all of the things? So I'm the HR and accounting manager because I left that out earlier. And so I get to deal with all of that fun stuff. I don't know what it is about pandemics that prompt the need for rehab, but that's been a thing for us. So I'm juggling FMLA, EFMLA, COVID leave, and then just, I don't work and leave. And then, I've had one positive case in the office. We've had 2 suspected positives that weren't able to get tested, myself included. Great fun. It's, so as far as like the terms go, it's one of those where it has to be pretty egregious before we'll take that action. I mean, the gal in question this morning, it's just, she's had this great streak of no call, no shows, and we are under so much pressure to perform the work that we're trying to do, that when one of our leads repeatedly doesn't show, then we have a problem. And so, it's It sucks. I mean, she's worked here several times. This last stint was just over 2 years. And, you know, it's a hard one on the crew, but it's even harder on the crew when they see that someone is being allowed to behave poorly. And so we hinge back to that whole, you know, if we can't maintain a certain level of performance, then how can we expect anybody else to? And so, yeah, it's trying to go as normal as possible, but still consider that, you know, it has to be pretty bad at this point for someone to be eliminated. The one a couple weeks ago, he had taken, so he had falsified his time card, taken a company vehicle, and not returned it until the next day.
Oh.
So, you know, it has to be pretty egregious before we're like, yeah, sorry, pandemic or no pandemic, like, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Michelle? Anything that's come up for you with around that particular issue?
You know, it hasn't been too bad. We actually had to let somebody go yesterday, and it was difficult. It wasn't COVID related by any means, but it is still difficult to go through the regular processes. But you have to. I mean, you have to keep in mind that the business still continues to run, and we still have to be productive and contributing to the ongoing success of the business, even in the midst of a pandemic. So it's hard.
Okay.
We're getting dumped.
It is dumping us, so. Okay, everybody's slowly coming back. I think we have one group that's resisting. Taylor must be talking.
I have not used that feature, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I have been in meetings. I haven't run them with it, so it does give an opportunity for, you know, more personal opportunities. So let's.
While we're waiting, Nancy, can I share a couple takeaways that Artie talked about? We talked about getting read receipts when you send out emails so that you know your employees are actually viewing it. We talked about HR white pages that you can send out once a week to kind of keep everyone updated. Technology, we talked about moving forward, is going to be a big key of doing video messages to get out to your employees, making sure everyone has the ability to connect there. And then around the kind of the mental and physical challenges, someone said, yell at me, not at your employees or, you know, other managers. So being an HR punching bag, unfortunately, in that situation. And then personal calls, reaching out to all your employees and doing that. But again, that becomes hard moving forward on scale. How about you?
Those are really good takeaways. We were just talking about communication methods and not overwhelming people with too much information or too much communication. I know personally, I got to the point where if I saw COVID in an email message, I just wanted to, you know, delete it without opening it. And we have to be cognizant of that with employees as well. And then one thing we didn't talk about in our session, but I would be curious to hear other people's thoughts on this, but I do think that if you guys aren't already, I think that text messaging your employees is going to be an important feature as well for short bursts of snippets of information. Does anybody use any sort of text messaging service for your employees?
We don't have a service for that, but each of our managers have a texting group set up in their calls or in their call blocks. And so they can send out quick blasts to all of their people that are just like, hey, check in Bamboo, there's a document there, because that goes to everybody's personal emails. So something along those lines is how we've gotten around it.
Yeah,
We moved to Teams, Microsoft Teams, for a lot of our communication. And when you send chat messages, it actually can send text as well.
Mhm.
So there's some good technology pieces that will allow you to do that directly to your employees.
Great. Hey, Taylor, Shane and I just debriefed on a couple key takeaways from our session. Would you like to talk about a couple key takeaways from yours?
Yeah, I think, I think it was amazing talking with Sarah about having to do interviews with masks on. I thought that was really interesting. Most of us are doing daily check-in calls for communication, which I thought was really good. And then there's just a multitude of ways that, like you were mentioning with the text messaging. I know at Paylocity, we use our communication within our mobile app to send messages out. But, you know, things like email, text, Teams, I think those are things. And then we really discussed at the end about if we thought that this whole work from home thing was going to be the new norm. So that was really interesting to touch on, and just seeing everybody's different opinions.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to do this again. Our next topic is financial stress. And again, your facilitator will lead the questions. So you're going to have a different facilitator this time, but you're going to be in the same group. So we'll see if I can make this happen again. I have to make sure where I'm going. Okay,
You did great the first time, Nancy. It was spot on.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right. So everybody, we did it again. I'm feeling more confident. I've got us into two messages. Okay. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about in this particular session was about the financial stress, not just as it's impacting us as businesses or business owners, but how are you dealing with the financial stress among your employees? Are you hearing anything about it? Are they feeling fat and happy from their stimulus checks? What are you hearing with regards to employees and finances?
I'm not hearing a whole lot. I mean, you know, really, because for the most part, I mean, everybody with us, because, you know, we really didn't have to lay off people. We had to at the very beginning, and that was really just because sales took the initial dip. But we've been fortunate on that side that for the most part our people haven't really been in too big of a bind. And in fact, I kind of hear some of the stories from people saying how much money they're saving because they're not they're not going out to dinner or going out drinking all the time and stuff. So probably been a good thing for them.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm hearing about, they should be getting combat pay.
Yeah, who's doing that?
Fred Meyer was doing it for a while. They were getting an extra $2 an hour.
Yeah, I'm kind of hearing that too, and you know, I've had a couple people mention it, and you know, it's been a dance because I don't, you know, I mean, it's hard to explain to them that, you know, that the money just isn't there. I mean, they see what's going in the till as well, you know, we sold $10,000 today, and that's gone right into Kenny's bank account. and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, we've had, this is Stacy, when we had to furlough, well, we did furlough all of our outside sales reps. Some of them were furloughed for 4 weeks and some for 6 weeks, depending upon where their location was. We also did salary reductions, like our admin team took significant, that would be our executive team, my level and up, took significant pay reductions, and then our branch managers took smaller reductions, but we had to do that, you know, across the board. And then once we, thank God, got PPP approved, you know, we were able to put those, you know, restore the wages and to bring the sales staff back. So that's a good thing. You know, I think everyone we really didn't hear a lot of complaining. I think everyone got it. It stunk, but you know, it was what it was, you know, and for a lot of them, quite frankly, being able to get unemployment, and, you know, if they're getting an additional $600 a week and they don't have the ability to go out and be spending frivolous money, you know, as you mentioned, Ken, I really don't think any of them were hurting horribly. Now, here in Washington, my employees on unemployment are a lot more unhappy than a lot of my other states because it's taking so long for them to get any money, even once they're approved. But everyone's been really, really kind, and I think just kind of accepting of the situation.
Well, that's cool. So have any of you had an issue with bringing employees back to work where they feel like they're going to make, well, not feel like, they're going to make less working than they would on unemployment with the $600 on top of that, a week on top of
Yes.
that?
Yeah, we've had some people turn things down. You know, had we known maybe how quickly we were going to get our PPP, we might have done things differently. But, you know, we did that big layoff. And then when we were trying to bring people back in, and because we did it early, they were very fortunate that signed up for their benefits quite early, and they were getting their money was rocking by that 2-week period that when we were ready to light things up again. So we've seen people, you know, not come back. We've seen, just as Sarah mentioned when we were all together, people are just ticking off a box to say they've looked for a job and they don't really want one because they're making more. And we're building an airplane on a runway right now. It is crazy. It's fun and exciting, but it's crazy. And we're hiring. I mean, I'm doing hirings every day. And what's really sad is we're turning over quite a bit of those as well. You know, just a couple days in and they're later. So that's it. I'm always grateful when I don't have to do write-ups and terminate people, and that it doesn't take 30, 60, 90s and all those awful things that we go through. But because of the way interviews are now and things like that, there's a lot of self-terming in just a day or two, you know. So it's tough.
I had one sales rep that was not going to accept the furlough, and she just said, "Then you know, I don't want it." I'm like, "Well, then if you want to resign, that's fine. Those are your options." And she said, "I'll just take unemployment." Well, that's between you and the state. Turns out, you know, when you quit rather than taking a furlough, that's, you know, she was mad at me at that point, and I've had 3 since we offered them their positions back, declined to return, which is fine. You know, now that their unemployment's being turned off, now they're calling, yelling at me that I got their unemployment turned off. And it's like, I offered you your job back. You know, I do have to report that I offered you your job back. You didn't want it back, it's fine, but you know, that's your unemployment's between you and the state, not me. So
Right.
I think some of them are having that issue now, but I have had 3 that have declined to return.
Yeah, Stacy, that's what we're running into right now too, is they're just, you know, until the stay-at-home order is lifted, they're saying, I don't want to come back. And I haven't made that stance yet, but we're getting to a point where we're going to have to. Probably by tomorrow or Monday, it's going to be a phone call to these people saying, okay, I'm offering you a job. Are you declining that job? Because here's the
And
consequence.
some of it we had to, because of PPP, I have to get the head count accounted for. So I don't have to count those that declined to return. So I need to be able to account for those. And I can say, I offered you your job back and you declined it. So those can count against the numbers. So I'm making sure that we track those. So we kind of had to take that stance, and that's really the decision, or why we came to that decision. But I have had several employees along the way, you know, that really just weren't going to be impacted by furlough or wage reduction, but just kind of self-terminated by saying, you know, I want to stay at home. And, you know, once you run out of your vacation and your sick time, you know, the doctor says you're not sick. I can't just let you stay home. You know, you're 20 years old, you're young, you're healthy. The doctor says you don't need to quarantine in place. I have a job that still has to be done. If you can't meet those needs, then I have to let you go. And it's been a hard conversation, you know, and many of you don't know me, some on the panel do, you know, I have MS and I'm still going to work, you know, when I need to. I'm one of those, you know, compromised immune people, and I'm like, we all still have to do this. So I'm a little less, I think, forgiving when I just don't want to come to work. Hopefully you'll lay me off so I can get unemployment.
Yeah. We have less than 2 minutes, but I do have a quick question for Stacy, because for those of you that don't know, Stacy is also head of the SHRM, the West Sound SHRM chapter, and so you might actually have an answer to this. Have you seen clear documentation on how we account for employees that may quit during this time, and if we replace them? I mean, I have not seen anything that is a really clear guidance on head count and salary in the situation where somebody quits and it's not because of work reduction?
Nothing on a state level as far as other than it is a voluntary quit.
Right.
We had that conversation as a chapter. I actually was on a NERMA because I'm on the NERMA board as well. We were on that conversation and talked about that yesterday. And really there's nothing governing other than it is a voluntary resignation.
Yeah. All you can do is, I mean, at least from my standpoint, all I'm doing is trying to make sure that we have really good documentation to support, you know, everything that happens during this time and how the, you know, what the offers have been, what the responses have been, et cetera. So I get asked that question a lot, and I just don't have clear guidance for people yet.
Yep, I've just been keeping the offer letters that have been sent out. You know, a couple actually replied, I'm going to decline the offer. Well, there's my answer in writing. The ones that didn't by the deadline I gave them, I emailed them back and said, since you haven't responded, we accept your resignation. Yeah. And that way it's at least in writing.
Good. Great. All right, guys, this room is going to close. So we are going to be popped back into the main room unless somebody has something to add. We have 97 seconds. Okay, here we go.
Just wanted to share a few takeaways that we were talking about. You know, everyone's having obviously a lot of financial stress and getting their employees back, and some of them us have employees who are continuing to work, but you know, how do you entice people to get back from unemployment? And we talked about, you know, having production bonuses potentially that you could put in place for hitting, you know, certain thresholds and set those thresholds higher. Putting together a story around a package that you can say, look, getting off unemployment, you can have purpose in life, and we're offering you, you know, things from teaching your kids at work as an option to the story around health insurance and purpose in life, and how do you kind of craft that message moving forward. So those are a couple of takeaways that we got in our group.
Great.
Taylor, Nancy?
Taylor?
Yeah, I can go next. So interesting enough, with our group, all of our companies are humming along pretty well. I think that the main takeaway, though, that I thought that Belinda brought up was that people are, and Lydia brought it up too. Lydia said she's seeing less applicants. And then Belinda said people are very apprehensive because Belinda's working on recruiting a lot of employees, and they're apprehensive of changing their jobs right now because they don't want to give up the tenure. Because you think if you leave your company right now, you know, if you've been with your company for a couple of years or even longer, then you go to a new company, how does that impact recruiting? You know, so I thought that was a huge takeaway. And then as far as the communication, I think I just mentioned what we were doing at Paylocity, and that's we have an executive QA every Friday with our C-level executives where all of the employees are invited to join, and we do it in a Zoom setting, and we can just type in questions into the chat box. So they address a lot of those questions about financial stress, furloughs, layoffs, all of that stuff. So just the open-ended communication with employees is the best thing, because we just want the open communication from the top.
Excellent. Hang on just a second. I'm trying to organize this. All right.
You're the master controller, Nancy. You probably have double the buttons we're looking at.
I have all sorts of buttons, and I'm trying to make sure I'm doing things correctly, which I don't think I am, but I'm doing the best I can. One quick question. Taylor, who was in your group last time?
So I had Michelle D, Lydia, and Belinda.
Okay, perfect. So I think I'm doing this right. And Shane, you have not been with that group, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I think I'm getting there. Okay.
Good job, Nancy.
And I got to move you to.
And she probably has like 5 computer monitors in her office right now to pull this thing
I just have one giant one, so we're good. But anyway, so the takeaway that we had from our group was that employees weren't actually feeling much financial stress because their extracurricular activities have been reduced. They're, you know, not spending as much money on travel and entertainment and food, et cetera. So they weren't hearing that issue. We did talk a little bit about the fact that certain employees don't want to come back to work because they're making more money on unemployment and are declining offers. And so we did talk just briefly about how we're making sure that we're documenting that so that when it does come time to apply for the PPP loan forgiveness, that we have all the documentation that goes along with that. And then also, of course, for unemployment purposes, when we do get those letters that say, you know, is so-and-so had the opportunity to come back to work. So really maintaining a good documentation system is going to be key.
That's great.
All right, last breakout, guys. Benefits and compliance. So I think I did this right. So we are going to open the rooms. Actually, I need to fix that. Okay, open the rooms again, and then we will convene for one last takeaway. So here we go. And I am joining this. Okay, I think, are we missing somebody, Nurse?
Yeah, we're missing Michelle.
Where did she go?
There she is.
Okay, there we go.
I think it was smart of you to leave us all in the same group, so it makes it a little bit better at least.
I think so too, because then you get kind of a little bit of an opportunity to get comfortable with each other instead of all of a sudden there's a fresh set of faces. Plus, it was all I could manage.
This is great, Nancy. I've never been in, I didn't know Zoom could do the breakout room. It's awesome.
I heard about it, but I never tried it, so that's really good.
So, all right, so we're going to talk about benefits and compliance for a couple minutes. And when I say benefits, it can encompass anything you want to think about under that umbrella. So what benefits do you think are going to matter most to employees, and do you think their perceptions are going to change from what was most important last year to what's going to be most important next year?
That's a tough one.
Yes.
That's a tough one. A lot of our folks, younger families, was real critical that we get into a better medical program this year, which Nancy helped us with, which is great. They're really happy with that. I don't think we've had time to really evaluate what next year is going to look like. I think we're just trying to get through day by day right now.
I think telehealth is going to skyrocket, just skyrocket.
I couldn't agree more. Sarah, what are you seeing?
We've had a couple folks, just kind of some one-off type scenarios that we have been kind of uneasy about how to address without giving anything away too sensitive. We've got one employee who has a doctor's note that they're immune compromised. But we already went through our layoff period. And so she's concerned, can she still get unemployment if she's not laid off? You know, if she resigns with a doctor's note and says, I can no longer work because of immune compromise, here's my doctor's note, will she get unemployment benefits? If she stays with the company, she can apply for PFMLA, but on the website just yesterday, they're saying it can take up to 10 weeks. So we don't really know if we can lay off people on demand. We don't want to start that precedence with people. Oh, hey, I heard so-and-so got laid off because she asked for it in a doctor's note. I think I'm going to go home and make more money watching TV all day. So that's been our biggest challenge this week, is trying to figure out how to navigate that scenario.
It's a hard one. It's a hard one because the documentation's not up to speed either on their website.
So when I think about benefits, of course, I live in the benefit world, but I think about benefits kind of on a more broad basis. And I think some of those benefits are going to be like the ability to work at home more often. Or, you know, I think that those things are going to be, people are going to come back and they're going to say, hey, we did it successfully for, 2.5 months. Why can't I work 2 days a week at home? And so I think those are things that are going to be brought into that same conversation as your medical insurance. I think people are going to, those things are going to rise in importance. At least I feel that's going to come up.
Becomes a right, not a privilege.
Yeah, I agree. I also agree with Nancy that telehealth is going to be huge. It's something that we've always, for years we've been promoting it, but we could never get anybody to use it. Now, because they can't get into the doctor, they're going, oh, wow, this is fantastic. But I think we're going to see that expand. I think telehealth will be more than just, oh, I've got a cough. I think you're going to see it in the behavioral health area as well, for mental health, for chemical dependency, substance abuse. I think you're going to see a big expansion of that. And I think that's going to be important to people. I think they're going to demand that in their plans. So that's kind of my take on that. Okay, here's a big one for you guys. How do you stay compliant when the rules keep changing?
Makes you tear your hair out. It's
Yes.
been really challenging.
Yes. I find myself looking for guidance and advice online way more than ever before, you know, because you have to keep, and it's the news alerts as opposed to what the official communication from the ESD or something is. It's just bizarre.
I feel like I have done more self-education over the last 2 months than I've ever done. And I've always been, you know, I'm always researching, but it's like, because there's so much and everybody has a little bit of a different take on it. It's trying to distill all that down into a manageable soundbite. I mean, I had a conversation with Heritage this morning about the new rules around flexible spending accounts. And it's not, a lot of these rules are just not one size fits all. It's like, you have to make a decision, and then we have to decide how that's going to be communicated. We have to make sure it's compliant. The government has made so many rules so quickly that they don't all agree with each other. Some of them are in conflict with each other. And so that's why the FSA rules had to be changed, because technically you shouldn't have a special COVID enrollment period unless you amend your FSA document. So lots of fun.
Before I forget, I want to show you guys my mug. I don't know if you can. Oh, it's backwards.
What does it say? It says keep
calm and HR on.
HR on. Oh, I love it.
Cute.
That's amazing. Yeah, it is. I think the other thing that we all need to pay really close attention to, and we talked about it just briefly in that in our last little recap, is maintaining absolutely excellent documentation while we're going through this on everything, because I think as long as we can show that we were doing best efforts, best intention, that will be okay. But I will tell you, Department of Labor will have a field day with this time when everything is said and done, because they're going to need to make up money somewhere, and they're going to be auditing and fining. So compliance is more critical than ever.
That's a good, really important heads up. Thank you for that. I never thought about it that way.
Sarah, have you guys had any issues with just like the rumor mill? If somebody's out sick, suddenly there's like, we did have an issue with that, where we had a gentleman go out because he was ill, and next thing we knew, some of these guys are like, you know, little retired women just chit-chatting back and forth about, you know, oh, they got it, or how do we mitigate some of that? I guess that was a challenge for us.
That's a good question.
Yeah, interestingly enough, we haven't, knock on wood, we have not had a whole lot of people go out sick. I think we've been fortunate in Pierce County to have a pretty low rate of infection, and you know, we've been screening everybody that comes in every day. We haven't had sent anybody home. I take that back. We've had a couple folks over the last 2 months that have gone off with cold-like symptoms, and then we did the mandatory 7 days at home. And all those rules kept changing too, right? At first it was 2 weeks, and then it bumped down to 7 days. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. No, you should wear a mask. And that was really critical for us too, because if we had someone go down on the bottling line when this first happened, we thought, are we gonna have to shut our whole production facility down if someone leaves and tests positive? Luckily we didn't have that. And then the rules changed where even if someone does test positive, if you're asymptomatic, come on back into work. So we were able to skirt through that, but it has been interesting times for sure.
I think I'll send this out when I send out the recap. I did actually just see a really good tool about a return to work plan, and there was actually it included a memo to advise your staff when somebody goes out ill and saying, you know, they're home ill, asymptomatic, or so-and-so had, because you do need to let people know because of the contact tracing and everything. But it's just to being really clear and having a consistent way of communicating that so that you do shut down as much of the rumors as possible.
Yep.
You seen anything else? Nancy, do you have any other suggestions or thoughts on that?
No, I think you guys, you brought up something, Michelle, I hadn't thought about, which is the whole rumor mill. But that's a scary thought, right? How do you
shut down
stop
the job? We did shut down a job, and he didn't have it. He was just sick, but it panicked
Wow.
to where they just sent everybody home and shut it down for the day until they could regroup and figure out what to do next. But
then you start the next day with a stand up saying, hey, this is the situation, let's get to work, you know?
Yep.
Shane, you have amazing timing.
I try.
So for the benefit stuff, a lot of it's surrounded. We first started talking about medical benefits, but I think a lot of that, I mean, most employers have medical plans, and I think a lot of that's going to be surrounding the rate increases that are going to come. I know Nancy made a phenomenal post on LinkedIn. Yeah, I think it was yesterday, about how a lot of premiums are going to go up 40%. So I think that's going to be something of just making sure that companies have those. But the general consensus of our group was, you know, things like paid time off and, you know, performance-based compensation benefits that people are going to want. And, you know, the things I brought up, you know, were just, you know, the differences of all of us, because we all have very different roles. We all do very different stuff, which means it just impacts us all differently, right? So those are the main things. And then, you know, with the compliance stuff, I mean, we're all, you know, moving at light speed as, you know, new things come out every single day. So relying on your, you know, payroll provider. And Stacy mentioned staying in touch with a networking group like SHRM. It's phenomenal just having, you know, various HR professionals and trusted colleagues that you can bounce ideas off of, because what's true today is not going to be true tomorrow or the next day, unfortunately. So we just have to band together. That's what I said at the end too. This has been really cool today, just hearing everybody's different opinion. I think it's awesome how we've all kind of banded together.
Yeah, we agreed that SHRM is a phenomenal resource, and they've been providing a lot of good information. I do want to let everyone know that Lydia's husband works for FEMA, and she gets updates, you know, before the rest of us.
Oh,
make sure you have her on speed dial. So if you want to know what's going on in the world, that we learned that process. But no, just talking about, you know, continuing to bring different things in. Not a lot of benefits have changed. A few of them are going negative on PTO hours. We're talking about bringing in counselors or hairstylists if you can get them on the black market. Don't ask Taylor, he doesn't have one. And just kind of other things like that, of creative ways to do it. Nancy?
I love that idea. I'll take the hairstylist. We were talking about the demand for working from home, and I know you guys, one of your groups had talked about it in an earlier session, is that's going to be something that people are going to perceive as an important benefit. We did briefly touch on telehealth as it relates to all different types of services. And then we got into a little bit about compliance and communication and how to shut down the rumor mill, or how to address situations when an employee is out sick, so that people understand what's happening. So one of the things that I am going to do is I will send everybody a recap of our meeting and some of the key takeaways. I do have a couple of resources that I will send you, and one of those is a communication that you can share if somebody is reported ill in your organization. That a good, easy, clean way to share that with employees. And then I do want to give one last caveat before I give everybody their last say. I'll make this my last say. So when I said 40% increases on medical, that was something that came out from Comp California. We should not be seeing 40% rate increases, but the insurance companies are going to do everything they can in 2021 to play this or spin this as, oh, our costs went up so much. Their costs have not gone up. That's part of the reason everything went to 100% paid for COVID-related services because they needed to make up their claims. Elective surgeries are down 90% in some cases, and insurance companies are looking at having to rebate money. So it's going to be some real creative accounting coming up in 2021. So just make sure you call your provider on the floor if you see something that seems out of line. So that's my final word. I'm going to go around. I'm going to go to Taylor next. Final thoughts.
I think I already said it when I last spoke, but this has been amazing just to hear everybody's different opinion. We're all different. We all have different roles, and collaborating together as one. I think just viewing this, living at home, being alone during these times, since I live at home alone. The one thing that I think we're missing is good leadership and good unity as a whole. And it's been really cool to see what something like this has brought, of just all of us kind of bouncing ideas off of each other and collaborating together. So that's been my big takeaway. And then everyone that I spoke with was awesome. All of the points that were brought up were great. And I think, continuing stuff like this will be invaluable.
Excellent. Lori Smith, statement. Maybe.
You.
Lori?
Hi. I want to thank you for inviting me. I've met some really neat people. I need to hook up with Lydia and get some of that information quickly. That's awesome. Being ahead of the curve would always be nice. I'm super fortunate to know Nancy and have her be the one watching out for our benefit. So I'm very excited about that as well in this new crazy reality. And thanks for sharing your ideas. Spitballing works. Let's keep it up.
Thanks. Ken Price, closing comments.
Man, I echo Lori's comments too. I like the format. It's small enough to where everybody gets some good input in, and especially having the just different industries and stuff. It's fun to see what other people are doing, and we're all in the same boat.
Thank you, Lydia.
Yeah, I think culturally it's going to cause a shift, which is interesting. I know within my neighborhood, we have a neighborhood group of people who are kind of conspiring, I guess, to where it's like we get on and go, hey, I need this service and I can't get it somewhere else. So like I've been the neighborhood notary. I've been going around and stamping everybody's wills because everybody's getting their affairs in order. There's different people providing different services. There's another gal who has a hookup on milk. Go figure, right? So she's got gallons and gallons of milk every week, and she's like, everyone want a gallon? So then she just throws milk all over the neighborhood. Really odd, but everybody's got their own little things that they're bringing to the table, and we've seen it here at work too. It's the same kind of building the community unity aspect as opposed to being as closed off as we were previously. So it's been a nice change on that front.
Michelle Dvorak.
Yeah, I think just echoing what everyone said, this has been a fun discussion this morning, and yeah, just for us in the office, it's just support and knowing that everybody's at a different stage on any given day, and being mindful of how you're communicating and working with each other.
Thanks. Michelle Petty.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me, Nancy. Yeah, it was really great to be able to talk to everybody for a minute and know that others are going through some of the same challenges.
Thanks. Sarah.
I'll get myself off mute here. Yeah, I'm tired of hearing the word unprecedented, but it always comes back into my mind. I mean, we're just living through unprecedented times, and it's great to come together like this. Nancy, you just always go above and beyond serving your customers, clients, I should say. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Sarah. Helen?
Sorry, the unmute also. No, I just want to thank everybody for time to collaborate today. It was great hearing feedback from all the different, areas. And so I just appreciate having a chance to talk with everyone and get a couple different ideas on some things. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Stacy? Maybe? Well, while we wait for Stacy to unmute herself, how about Shane?
I think the biggest takeaway that I continue to see through this is the idea of community and teamwork. Working with you, Nancy, as an example, just being able to have a team that can address any situation around you, and whether you be in HR or wherever it is, Ken is leading your organization, really having a good system in place of people that you can go to and get answers. And this is one way to do it, but just continue to build out that team. So as things come up, you just have a quick way to solve it.
Thank you. All right, I see Stacy's unmuted, so we'll give her the final word and then we'll let everybody go because I know we ran over a little bit. I just felt that it was really valuable and I wanted to make sure we heard from everybody. So Stacy, would you like to wrap us up?
Just want to echo everyone else's sentiments. I think this is a great forum. I thank you all so much for having it. Thank you so much, Nancy, for putting it together.
You're welcome. Well, we really appreciate everybody's time. Like I said, I will be sending out a follow-up email with some takeaways and some resources that you can use. And we may be having another session like this in the future. And if we do, we'll be sure and let everybody know. And we'd love to see you again. All right.
Thanks,
thank you.
Wonderful to meet you.
Nice
Thank you.
Bye-bye.